in Beaver Dam. Time now for today's community comment, both on the radio and on Daily Dodge TV. We go now to the video room, the Daily Dodge TV studio at 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge. Here is Kevin Haugen.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon. Welcome into today's community comment. Like Jeff mentioned, we are streaming both on Daily Dodge TV on YouTube and broadcasting on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge. So we don't have any sort of special presentations planned for today, but if you wanted to check out our faces and watch us instead of listening to us, you can do so on YouTube on Daily Dodge TV and check us out there. But sometime in the future, the plan is we're going to incorporate some sort of equipment, some video, sometimes a little show and tell maybe down the road. But
if need be, we can do show and tell today because we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yes.
About just showing what a police officer carries on their person at any given time. And it varies from cop to cop. And maybe when I bring one of my special guests with me, they can show you the alternate uniform.
It's a lot to show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And well, our guest, if you're watching us on Daily Dodge TV, you can see him. If you're listening, you can hear him. It's Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson with the Beaver Dam Police Department. If you have a question for the lieutenant, you can call in at 885-4446, or you can text your questions to 887-9595. It's a little bit of a shorter of a program today just because you were on just about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, so we covered a lot then. A little shorter program today, so we're probably going to wrap up around 1. So if you do have questions, be sure to get those in before we wrap up at 1 o'clock this afternoon. But Lieutenant, it's been just about a weekend, I want to say a week and a half, 2 weeks or so since you were last on. And there's been one or two things that happened of note since then. One of which was a pretty not severe injury-wise, but impacting on traffic and people who lived in the area. But there was a crash that had happened where a gas line was impacted, and it was quite the big deal here.
Yeah, it caused a lot of attention, and so it's at the intersection of North Spring Street and Burnett Street, which is pretty much the heart of town. Yep. That's like if you throw a dart at the city of Beaver Dam and you're looking for the bullseye, it's right there. So that's right where it is. Everybody coming down Spring Street had to get diverted. Everybody coming across off of County Highway E and Burnett Street there had to be diverted off somewhere else. And so, it was a pretty, it could have been really, really, really bad, but nobody got hurt. So if you think about like in terms of like how bad it could have been. I mean, you could have literally had a gigantic explosion. Sure. And I suppose I should probably explain to the listeners of what's going on here. Yeah. So there was a car that was at the stop sign of Burnett Street, and there was another car on Spring Street going south. The car with the stop sign waited, but then started going too soon. I don't know if they didn't see the southbound car, but anyways, they got hit in the rear wheel, which caused that southbound car to kind of spin out. And as they spun out, they crossed the other lane of traffic, they left the roadway, and they hit a gas line, which is located on the corner of Charlie Brown's bar, right there. That caused a massive gas leak. It actually broke the meter right off, and that, I think it's an 1.5 inch pipe, maybe an inch pipe, broke open, full bore, everything, all the gas coming out. So, when we got there, you could literally hear the gas leaking out of the tube from like a block away. So, and as I'm driving by, like trying to figure out what's going on, I can smell gas, and it was overwhelmingly strong. So I'm like, this is bad. This could be very, very bad. So we ended up evacuating a block in all 4 directions. We got the fire department there to kind of determine what's going on. Luckily, the people that were at the bar, they were able to shut down and get everybody out of that business quickly. And then the surrounding areas we kind of all worked on with the fire department and police officers too, just like going and knocking on doors and be like, hey, you got to go. So we get Alliant Energy out there who does our gas and our electric here in town. They ended up shutting down not just the gas, but the power as well, because they didn't want people in the residences, if there was gas that had leaked inside, etc., they don't want any accidental sparks. You flip on a switch, a spark hits that gas and causes an explosion, and all that gas that's in the area is going to go, depending on how thick it is, depending on how thin, those sorts of things. One of the things that kind of helped us out, you think it wouldn't, it was an incredibly windy day. it was wind was just blowing, and you would think that that's not good because the gas is now being spread across town, which it was. It actually, you could smell the gas to the northeast a lot more than you could if you were to the south, if you would. However, that helped thin out the gas to the point where the firefighters were saying that it was not much of a concern. There's a big storm that was rolling in. It was just like, can you add anything else to this? Yeah. There was a storm that was rolling in, and we were worried that if the wind changed and started to die down, that the gas would thicken up and cause it to be more volatile and explode. And I mean, so yeah, it was kind of crazy. So we evacuated at least more than a dozen residences. There was a business, the Mexican restaurant, La Tapatia across the street, Casey's General Store, all those businesses all got evacuated. Power shut down, and then they worked to shut down the pipe. One of the things that was kind of crazy about it is the car, when it came to rest, landed on the pipe. So when the Alliant Energy guys got there, they were unable to successfully, we were worried about if we pull the car off, the sparks in the the metal hitting metal could cause a spark, and cause it to ignite. So they decided to shut down the gas at a different junction. The firefighters and the Alliant Energy guys had to dig underground to get to that valve, and it took a little bit longer than we originally anticipated to get that all shut down. So, I mean, it was literally the calm of a beautiful Saturday afternoon, just boom, disaster, and thank goodness nobody got hurt in the accident or in the gas leak, anything like that. So yeah, it was if anybody was wondering what was going on that afternoon, that's the general story right there. Yeah,
and listening you recount with the events that transpired on that day, it seemed like a great example of partnership and working together well with other agencies here in Beaver Dam. That you mentioned, the fire department, Alliant Energy coming in, and it needed to be a full effort from everyone to make sure that nothing worse did happen on that day.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a full deployment by the fire department. We actually called in some extra officers as well to help out with scene security, and not only that, and if you have all your officers on a scene, you still have the city to run. You still have to respond to emergency calls. So we needed some extra bodies there to handle both at the same time. And really a shout out to the Alliant Energy guys, both the electric guys and the gas guys, coming in at the drop of a hat knowing that it was an emergency. I know those guys, they're always responding to big storms, hurricanes down south, and they know that the infrastructure is going to be hurt and there's dangers that need to be addressed. And they got down there. They knew what they were doing. They had their gas meters out. They went door to door and made sure before they let anybody else into those residences, made sure that the gas levels were low enough where it wasn't a hazard to breathe and it wasn't a hazard if there was a spark. And they did it systematically, quickly, efficiently. It was great. So it's good to partner with those guys. You don't see them every day. You know what I mean? It's not only that, but I mean even the tow truck service. We had Johnny's come up because they were next on the list, and we called them up and said, hey, we need you to move this car, but can you wait a little bit because we got to turn off the gas first, and handle the accident later. But I mean, just everybody kind of all came together, and it was good. Yeah, it was very good.
I'm always curious to know kind of the thought process that goes in for law enforcement when they approach a very complex situation like this. What's the order of steps that are taken? Like, you get to a scene, you see a car up against a building, you smell the smell of gas. In this instance, thankfully, no one was hurt. But in the case of what if somebody was seriously, what's going on through the mind of specifically a police officer when they get to a situation that's that complex?
Right. So they're taught in the police academy. It's called the respond model, and I'm not going to be able to list every single item that's on that because it's RESP, and there's a title for that: respond, evaluate, secure. I may have wrong, but the general, it gets ingrained to your mind, so you don't need to think of the acronym anymore. But when I was pulling up, I'm thinking I'm going to an accident. You know what I'm saying? So it's usually, you pull up, you block your scene by shutting down the road and getting your squad car there, and to the point where you can evaluate, all right, do I need to shut down the whole street? Do I need to just shut down one lane and traffic can go around? And usually those first couple of cars showing up, they they have to evaluate what that is, and then the second and third cars as they show up, they help route traffic, and just to keep traffic moving. Otherwise, there's jams and more problems later. Secondary accidents can happen, but this one was different. As I pulled up and I smelled gas, I could hear the gas coming out of the tube, and I mean, just that happened once before when I heard a gas line break, and I'm like, this is bad. This is really, really bad. You switch from protecting the accident scene to getting away, looking in, and being like, all right, how do we get those people out of there? So some businesses, I believe our dispatchers called and said, hey, you got to get out. Other ones, we went door to door and quickly said, hey, time to go. I know for sure that the driver of the car that hit the gas line was out and away. And there was another car that was still kind of in the danger zone, if you will. Kenny Loggins, great song. But we very quickly said, all right, hey, leave your car here, go walk down to the block, talk to that other officer there. And I mean, it's basically scene control at that point on evacuation. And then all those other secondary priorities that you would normally handle during a typical accident scene of interviewing the drivers, figuring out what happened. Do you need an ambulance? Do we need a tow truck to get the car out of here? And all that stuff, that all happened second, and after we knew that everyone was safe, because that life, the security of life goes above security of property, it goes above the investigation and enforcement of the law. It was evacuation first. Yeah.
And maybe this is a good tangent then question to ask. So say if you're somebody who lives in an area and a car hits a gas line and you don't know this yet, but you step outside, you smell gas in the air, you don't know where it's coming from. What is there any recommendations for them? Do they evacuate immediately? Do they call authorities? Should they get as far away as possible? Because sometimes they don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah. So if it's in your house, for you smell gas in your house and you don't know if it's a gas line that broke or is just leaking or somebody left the stove on or whatever, get out and call 911. Even if it's fine to call a line to energy, but I wouldn't do that directly. I would call 911 first, because they have the emergency numbers that can. They're going to dispatch the fire department. They're going to dispatch us, and they have the emergency numbers that the guys, at 3 a.m, are going to pick up and say, "All right, I'm calling these guys in to help you fix this problem." But most important step is to get out. Okay, don't flip any switches. Don't mess with any electronics. Just safely get out and distance yourself. I'd say probably across the street. Let's say if the sidewalk in the street, go across the street. In case something does happen, there's an explosion or something, you're a safer distance away from it. A situation like that, when you can hear the gas leaking and it's just a massive gas leak, get as far away as possible. And of course, if nobody knows about it yet, call 911. If the fire trucks and the police are showing up, just get away. Grab the kids, grab the wife, get out of the house, and walk away from the smell of the gas. And yeah.
It really, looking back again, it really is a miracle that nothing more seriously happened, just because of how quickly gas can spread and how, there's a gas station right nearby. People are out. It's a Saturday. Maybe they're cooking something outside.
Yep.
It really is really thankful that nobody was seriously hurt in the crash and in the aftermath from the gas being leaked.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things where you can't really comprehend how that could happen. They have a big concrete bollard, if you will, in front of that gas meter, to prevent people from in the parking lot from bumping into it. But this lady was doing her normal 25 miles per hour and boom, hit it, and it's what happened, and it wasn't enough to stop it from hitting the meter. And it was at the right time, the right place.
Perfect
just
storm,
precisely, and didn't even hit the building, hit the gas meter without hitting the meter. It was like lucky shot. And that's the kind of stuff that happens every day across the country. It's just a matter of time of when is it going to happen. So you gotta think of these little scenarios. And I would have never thought of this one. I'm usually thinking about law enforcement stuff. Like what happens if there's a mass shooter? What happens if there's a tornado that hits? What happens if we get a call for a big fight at a bar? Those are the types of scenarios that I run through my head. What I'm going to do. Did not expect. What happens when a car hits a gas main in the middle of the busiest part of town? And
But that's why law enforcement goes through all these trainings, and
yeah.
the training programs are updated year after year. They're never the same because incidents happen that, like, well, we didn't think of this, and maybe we should have something in place for a training program, training class that we could walk through these steps again and work through any processes that I'm sure that's why there's after action reports that people go through and see what transpired and see where there's areas to improve or what areas were done extremely well.
Exactly.
But that's an important part of this process as well, to be able to look back and reflect. And then if something, again, if perfect storm happens and it something like this does transpire again, we're ready to deal with it at a moment's notice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was even discussing with Officer Graham Rindo. He used to work at the Sun Prairie Police Department. He was there for that large gas explosion that happened downtown. And I think it was at a pizza place or some other building associated with it. And he was not working that day. And I wish he was, because he probably would have been like, hold on. He probably would have had some other suggestions. But now we talked about it. And it seems like we did fairly well. There's always learnings. We partner with the fire department. They speak up a lot when they have that after action kind of when they notice that there's an issue that needs to be addressed where we didn't respond as efficiently as we should have, or just something that we learned that we could do better. We work with them, and sometimes it's following their lead too. I'm a police officer on scene, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, gas leak, and I'm like, really, how far do we really need to go?
Sure.
I go to the firefighters, and they know. And then they tell me how far we need to go. And so we did. Alliant Energy shows up. They know even better. And they go, this is how far you need to go. And so we did.
That's why it's going to the experts.
Exactly.
If it's something if criminal liability was involved, the fire department would go to the police department and get their inputs. And it's vice versa when something like that happens.
Yeah. And I will say this. I mean, there's a lot of kind of lore, if you will, about firefighters and police officers not getting together and the rivalry between them. That's not existent here at Beaver Dam. Our rivalry is very, very lighthearted, brotherly. It's
how it should
jokes.
Be.
Yeah. Like, for instance, they took one of our brooms hostage one day out of our squad cars as we were cleaning up an accident. And the crew that we were working with that day, they know us and we have a good time. And they took a picture of it and they wanted to, get money to get the broom back. And I said, that's illegal. You can't do that. You can't kidnap a broom. You're going to arrest them for theft. It's a joke. That kind of those little jokes and that rivalry, that's where we're at. We are working with them. We don't fight. We don't argue. It's not like you see on TV, the firefighters and the cops, the guns and hoses sort of thing. It's a very friendly, brotherly. We have a great time. We go over to the firehouse. We will eat lunch with them at times and breakfast when time allows. We interact with them well on emergency scenes, and it's a very, like I said, almost brotherly, positive working relationship with the fire department and other emergency services here in town.
I mean, that builds up that relationship. I mean, having that connection with the different agency just strengthens those bonds and communications when stuff happens, and you can rely on a certain person just because you got to know them very well, and you don't have to question whether or not they're going to do something. You can trust them,
and you get to know them and know what their capabilities are. How they like to handle things, and it just becomes part of how we respond together as a team. Yeah. So
fantastic. Again, we're chatting with Beaver Dam Police Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson here on Community Comment. If you do have a question for the lieutenant, you can call in at 885-4446, or you can text 887-9595. We just only have a few minutes, a shorter community comment today with the police department. We had them on just about a week and a half ago, so we had a lot to talk about then. So,
we did.
A little shorter of a program this afternoon, but another topic that we want to hit on before we wrap things up today on Community Comment is an important fundraising event happening here in a few weeks from now, I believe, and that's the golf outing, which raises funds for the Beaver Dam Police Department charities.
Correct. So we are partnering with the canine fundraising, or the canine fundraising unit, if you will, this year. So it's our golf outing that's coming up here is not just the Beaver Dam Police charities, but our canine department as well too. So we have a new canine officer, Matthew Bublitz, and he has his canine partner Murph. He's our new canine. I haven't met Murph yet, but I've seen pictures of Murph.
Is this within the last couple of weeks?
Couple of weeks here.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So, and if you check Facebook, I believe there's a picture of Murph out there. And Officer Bublitz, when the time comes here, he's going to be out training professionally with his new canine partner Murph. out at Josephine Kennels. And I fully intend to have Officer Schneider, Detective Hall, and Officer Bublitz on the show one of these times. Maybe even bring their canine partners in so that the audience can see them and maybe see what they're doing. Yeah. We'll do a community comment like that if you guys are okay
that would
with
be
that.
fantastic.
So,
that would be
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. But anyway, so that new canine, we get a lot of donations. We get a lot of, obviously, taxpayer budgeted funds that help out with the canine department. But you always need a little bit more. Canines are very expensive, not just to adopt and train, but the time and the payroll to train that officer, the food, the veterinary care. Canines require a special squad car that has like a special cage in the back and ventilation and emergency things that kick in if the engine stops running in the car to keep the canine safe on a hot day or even a cold day, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of extra stuff that goes in, and we try to raise funds for the canine. This golf outing is part of that. And if you like golf and you want to help out not just the canine, but the Beaver Dam Police charities as well, you can. It's Saturday, June 22nd, 2024. That's this year. Sorry, I'm reading it off of the computer here.
If you put anything on there,
right?
You'll read it, right?
Right, exactly. I know. It's like Ron Burgundy.
Yeah,
Yes, with the teleprompter. Stay classy, San Diego. Who put a question mark on there? Yeah. It's registration is at 8 a.m. At Old Hickory Golf Club, and it's a shotgun start at 9:30 a.m. We're looking for groups of 4. It's $100 per player, $400 per team. All that is included with that price is you get a gift for the player, you get a drink ticket, you get some range balls, a golf carts, there's contests, the dinner, a raffle, and of course the golfing. Yep. So, and that's all wrapped in there. So you will see at the golf outing, most likely the canines will be there because that's who we're partnering with this year. So if you like the canine program and you like the police dogs or you like just animals in general, it might be a cool thing to stop by and sign up and do what you got to do to play some golf with us this year.
Now, fundraising and supporting the canine unit this way is a huge part of how this unit stays afloat because it is continued and bolstered by donations and community funds.
Correct.
And that's how you're able to have a canine unit and
Right.
afford all those equipments that
Right.
a piece that you had mentioned.
Yeah, I don't know the exact breakdown of dollars and cents, but I will say that without the canine fundraising, without the charities, et cetera, that we could not have as an extensive as a program as we currently do. It's great having 2 working dogs with us. That provides the coverage, especially during the busy hours of when we need it and when the things occur, and the ability to call them in when they're not there. But yeah, to answer your question, it is definitely one of those things where the budget that we currently have is not enough to provide for the program that we need or want, for that matter.
Yeah,
so it's great to have that, the community support with the donations.
Yeah, and having a canine unit is also important with community outreach and events. Like you mentioned, they will likely be at the golf outing, and it's a great way to have, especially maybe younger members of the community come in and meet members of law enforcement and have an opportunity. I know that a lot of times canines will go to the schools in the district here in Beaver Dam and have a chance for students to meet them, and it's just really a great opportunity to open up those doors and have the public meet with members of law enforcement.
The canines are great public relations agents. They are, you can walk into a room with the canine and immediately you're making connections, and that's great. Yeah. It's a good thing.
Yeah, fantastic. So, so there's still some training for the new canine here that
Correct.
came on board. So so after that's done, then which canine unit will they be replacing? Who is?
We will have a canine on second shift now.
Okay. All right.
Detective Hall's canine Yeti retired recently, and we still have canine Boomer with Officer Schneider on third shift. So we will be back up to 2 as soon as Murph is ready to go.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And one more time before we wrap up community comment, what's the dates, times?
Saturday, June 22nd.
2024.
This year. Silly. Old Hickory Golf Club.
Fantastic. And is there a registration deadline that people need to be aware about if they want?
You know what?
Can they register at the events?
Yeah. That's a great question. If we could know in advance, that's going to help, because we as we look at the registration right now, we do need additional golfers as well. So
there's spots open. There's plenty of time to get in, but pre-register is the message that we want to share.
Absolutely. If you're not a big golfer, you can still register for super raffle tickets as well. Those are $20 a piece too. So if you're interested in that, reach out to a Beaver Dam police officer. Obviously, same contact info for me, jjohnson@bdpd.org, or give us a call at 887-4612. So I'll give you 887-4614. That'd be a better number.
Fantastic. I'm sorry if you had mentioned this, I just completely slipped my mind. Is there an online website that people can go to or is this all through?
I believe so you can go to the Beaver Dam Police Charities Facebook page, as well as the Beaver Dam Canine Unit Facebook page, and both of them will be talking about the golf outing on there. And they'll have the links and all further information, whatever you need.
Fantastic. So again, that golf outing happening June 22nd at Old Hickory Golf Course here, just outside of Beaver Dam. I believe you said registration begins at 8 o'clock.
That's correct.
On that day.
And,
shotgun start at
tee off at 9:30. Shotgun start. Yep.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank our guest here on Community Comment this afternoon, Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson with the Beaver Dam Police Department. Lieutenant, thank you so much for coming in and talking with us this afternoon.
Absolutely.
All right, and that will do it for today's Community Comment.